it's wonderful. Last year, of course, with all the snow, was a record year in the ski industry in terms of skier visitation at resorts on private property and as well as our public lands. And so those of us in the industry feel very, very lucky that despite what's going on in the economy these days, that things continue to go well for us. So that's good news. As I said earlier to Jim, we could use a little bit of help this year on the snow front. So if anybody after this presentation wants to join me in a snow dance during the reception or whatever, we might be doing that. But other than that, things are good. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about some things, some changes in the ski industry, specifically this past year, the last couple of years actually, a lot of folks at the National Ski Association in partnership with Derek and the Forest Service have worked hard to get some legislation passed that we feel helps clarify and enables ski resorts to broaden the scope of what we do in terms of summer activities. And I don't know how many of you have heard of that legislation. I think it passed sometime last fall, and I thought it was pretty cool. You know,
Absolutely.
How many things right now, you know, how many bills get passed through Congress these days? Not many. It's pretty darn tough. And I think, you know, maybe this is an outstanding or a good example of this partnership that the National Ski Association, specifically Geraldine Link, who works really hard for the National Ski Association, and our partnership with the Forest Service. This bill passed Congress. It was almost unanimous, okay? And, you know, again, supported by the Forest Service, supported by a lot of environmental groups as well. So it was really a good coalition and a good group effort to get this thing passed. And, you know, really the goal was to try and clarify a lot of what happens on public land in the summertime. A lot of resorts for a long period of time have called themselves, you know, mountain resorts. That transition happened a long time ago. It was always, well, we're ski resorts. And several years ago, a lot of resorts changed it to mountain resorts, and in our case, Snowbird ski and summer resorts. And a lot of us for quite a few years have been doing different activities, whether it's during the summertime, whether it's mountain biking or alpine slides or different events, 5K summer events, mountain biking races, alpine slides, zip riders. At Snowbird for 40 years, we've had a big summer event that brings up a lot of people. Our Oktoberfest event, all summer events. And I think that with the Forest Service and a lot of the resorts on public lands, you know, we looked at that we were kind of in the gray zone a little bit because the enabling or authorizing legislation originally talked about winter activities and ski resorts. And so it was important for us to try and get that clarified. So again, as I already said, it passed this fall. There was a good consensus that did it, and it really helped clarify things. And now a lot of those activities that I mentioned will be easier to get done. Of course, everything still will go through the process, go through NEPA, go through public comment and all those things, and give local decision makers a lot of big say on what happens or doesn't happen at the different resorts. But it should make it easier to understand, you know, what's going to happen in terms of a lot of the things I mentioned. And a lot of those are already at resorts. It adds consistency to the policies. And it also says that, correct me if I'm wrong too, but things like golf or amusement park type activities, you know, will not be allowed in public land at ski resorts. So that's good, and we're happy that there will now, we believe, be a more consistent policy, and also, you know, will be easier for the resorts to understand what they want to try and move forward. And so, from the industry standpoint, why is this important to us? I'll start by saying that we're in a very, very competitive business. Ski resorts do great, as I already said, in the wintertime, but that's not necessarily so in the summertime. And it's a very competitive business with lots of different resorts and different offerings out there. And a lot of the competition in the ski resort world that's on private land, whether it's in this country or whether it's in Canada or a lot of the European resorts, they have a lot of these types of activities already. So they have the alpine slides, they have the zip riders, they have the mountain coasters. And so it's important for those of us that are on public land to be able to offer those things as well to stay competitive. It's also important for all of us on public lands to be able to continue to meet our guests' expectations. It's changing dramatically what our guests expect when they come to ski resorts. You know, the days of folks wanting to go to a ski resort and, you know, ride, you know, old slow ski lifts, or to go to ski resorts and ski on runs that are not groomed, for example, or to go have a nice lunch at a less than acceptable base facility. The expectations of our guests are going up quickly, and really they should, because a lot of you know, a lot of resorts, we charge a lot of money for what we do. I think at Vail, lift tickets now are over $100. At Snowbird, our lift tickets are, I think, close to $80 this year. So, you know, our guests expect a lot when they come. People want to ride the fast lifts. People want to ride in nice gondola cabins now. And I think at one of our competitors, I saw that they built a new lift that has the bubble that comes down, and they sit down and they have the nice heated seat. And so, you know, it's pretty amazing. And of course, it's the high-speed lift that gets you to the top really, really fast and high capacity. And so our guest expectations are going up, and it's the same on base facilities. You know, at Snowbird now, you know, we're going to move forward, and after years of planning it and working on it with our partners in the Forest Service, we're going to build a nice mountaintop restaurant on the top of the tram at Snowbird at 11,000 feet. I hope in a few years, Derek, will have a Partners Outdoors there so we can show it to everybody. But, you know, the cost of those types of facilities are expensive, and it's important for us to meet our guests' expectations. And so summer activities are important for us. It's important to be year-round resorts. It's very, very difficult nowadays for a seasonal resort that operates in the wintertime for 4 months. 450,000 acres of wilderness. I think the ski resorts ballpark on the Uinta-Wasatch Cache are probably, at the outside, probably about 12,000 acres. And at those ski resorts, we do approximately 2 million visitors in the wintertime, and we probably do an equal number of visitors in the summertime. So that's really where the people in our community go to recreate, are the developed ski resort sites. And I'm proud to say that we, of course, as you would expect, one of our priorities is to try and do the best we can, and a lot of, to protect the resource. A lot of those are in conjunction with the Forest Service. But one of the things that we've done during our 40 years existence is we've actually improved the water quality despite increasing visitation by concentrating the use. So I think I'll kind of end it at that, with a little bit of an update on that legislation and why it's important to us. And I'd just like to thank the Forest Service and the National Ski Area Association and people like Derek for, you know, helping us do this great partnership that enables us to get a lot done on public land. So thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. We're excited about the summer use legislation too. I mean, just as the ski industry is interested in utilizing their capacity and so forth, and staff year-round, they have a very strong track record of bringing novices and urban populations to the mountains, to the national forests, getting them equipped, getting them trained in safety and technique, and offering them some, you know, hard days and soft nights and so forth, and that's part of the puzzle going forward in attracting non-traditional audiences. So we can see them providing some of those same sorts of you know, attributes to the summer use, and as a base of operations, attracting non-urban or urban populations, non-traditional, and giving them a base to work out of. on the ski areas, but even outside on the larger national forest system. We think that's a type of thinking that we need to have. Certainly wouldn't be the only one, but that's something we're excited about and the reason we supported that. I'd also just like to point out that Snowbird was one of the first ski resorts to participate in something called the voluntary lodging contribution, and that was visitors to their lodging facilities could opt to donate $1 a night or a couple of dollars toward the National Forest Foundation, which goes into a fund that then is used to do conservation projects, recreation improvement projects on the like in the area of the ski area on the National Forest. And that's grown to about 20 resorts nationwide, and we're looking to expand that. So that they were a very early adopter. I think maybe you were #1 in that, getting that going. So these folks think creatively and think in partnership. Well, next up is our second Bob. Together we're sometimes referred to as Jim Bob. Bob Ratcliffe and I have worked a lot together. Bob is currently the Deputy Assistant Director for Renewable Resources and Planning for the BLM. He got kicked upstairs recently due to his great work for years as the Division Chief for Recreation and Visitor Services, position now held by Andy Tinney, who's out there somewhere. There's Andy. And so Bob has been a real leader in the recreation field for a number of years, the public lands, outdoor recreation. I'm not going to go through this whole bio, but he has a really interesting background. He's worked at university faculty, he's been an outfitter guide, he's worked at ski areas. He keeps trying to find that way to justify his lifestyle, but unfortunately he came to Washington and keeps moving up. But Bob is currently our chair of something called the Federal Interagency Council on Outdoor Recreation, which is the working group, which is a council that was established by America's Great Outdoors to advance the interests of outdoor recreation. So Bob's going to talk about that, whatever else he wants for 15 minutes.
Random thoughts. Well, first I really want to thank Derek for getting me out of DC for a couple of days. It's always a relief. Besides it being, the beginning of the silly season, and the election is, you would think it was tomorrow, the way they talk, So, but I'm really happy to be here, and actually I'm very excited. After 30 some odd years in the business of recreation, there's some extraordinary stars aligning for recreation in America. And just before we get into sort of the description of what the potential of FICOR is, and as a implementation arm of the America's Great Outdoors Initiative, I just want to sort of reaffirm what occurred over the last 2 years. It's really pretty important for all of us in this room, especially inside and outside the agencies. They started the America's Great Outdoors process with the intent of focusing on, as Jim said, on large landscape scale conservation efforts. And immediately they thought, well, we'll have 5 or 6 listening sessions around the country and we'll solicit input. Well, almost instantly, the overwhelming response from American citizens and the value of the outdoors was related to recreation. And for all of us who spent our lifetime in this field, that's a no-brainer. But I think it was an awakening for the conservation interests and for the environmental interests about the linkages, the strong linkages between recreation, outdoor recreation, opportunity to connect Americans to the outdoors, and the value they feel for the environment and for conservation. So we saw a morphing of the America's Great Outdoors. It went from 5 sessions to over 50 listening sessions, hundreds of thousands of comments, which Mary and Jim and Andy and I all had the opportunity of pouring through comment after comment as we wrote the And as it turned